Tottenham have lost their identity, unquestionably, unfathomably, and this is a week of hell for Thomas Frank. This is a week where we face Newcastle and Brentford in the Premier League, and if he loses both, it could be a real sliding doors moment that ends in him potentially being sacked, which is something I never thought I would be saying 13 games into the season, that Thomas Frank would be at threat of being sacked already. I cannot believe we have reached this point. But the loss against Fulham for me was a turning point. It really, really was. For me, the loss against Fulham was unacceptable, embarrassing, pathetic, below par. So many different descriptive words I could use to describe that performance. And yet, here we are, 2 days later, and we already have another game at a ground where we very, very rarely win against a team who are just starting to pick up form. And all of a sudden, it almost feels like Spurs are in crisis mode again. There is the biggest disconnect between the fans and the players that I've seen at the club, arguably ever. Pedro Porro having a go at fans after the Fulham game the other night because they were booing Vicario. Absolutely ridiculous. Thomas Frank taking shots at fans in his press conferences to the media. Absolutely unacceptable. And I just feel like things aren't going to get any better. Away from home, Spurs perhaps stand more of a chance. More of a chance of picking up points. I think we have something like... We have very, very nearly maximum points on the road this season, other than that loss to Arsenal at the Emirates last week. So that's something, I guess, that you can cling on to. But this is such a pivotal week for Thomas Frank. So far, I do not think that he has proved he is a capable manager of leading Tottenham to where they need to be. Not where they want to be, where they need to be. We have played European football for 18 of the last 20 seasons. So our expectations, I think, are pretty valid. And that, at the very, very minimum, is playing European football. Whether that be the Champions League, Europa League or Conference League, that's more up for debate. But that's the bare minimum. And so far this season, we are falling below that bare minimum. Things are turning toxic, things are turning sour. And my point on this is, and my biggest qualm with Thomas Frank, is once you start going over after the fans, you are not likely to get them back on side very easily. The only way I think now Thomas Frank can redeem himself is simply by putting his money where his mouth is and start winning games. It is that simple. Start winning games. Start winning the games that we should be winning. For example, Fulham at home. For example, Wolves at home. For example, Manchester United at home when you've just scored a 93rd minute winner. Games like that where all 3 points should comfortably have been in the bag, and yet they weren't. And I don't want to hear any more excuses from him. He doesn't know his best team. He doesn't know how he wants to play. The tactics are so off for what we are so used to seeing at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. And as I say, I think if he loses the 2 games this week, his job is under serious threat. He was the last appointment of the Daniel Levy era before he was relieved of his duties. So the board have a very, very important decision to make. Do they stick by him, give him the time, give him the money to really, really try and prove himself? Or do they accept defeat now, cut their losses, and bring in somebody who is actually capable of running a top-level club? I have no problem with Thomas Frank as a person. I have no problem with the man at all. He's a very nice bloke, and I know that he is a good coach, and I know that he's pragmatic, and I know that he can produce. But I just think he's gone about this Tottenham stint so far in completely the wrong way, and I don't understand why. Tottenham are a very sensitive fan base. Yes, do we get on our players' backs a little bit too often? Maybe we do. But it's built on years of frustration. 3 wins at home in the Premier League in 2025. If we lose on Saturday at the weekend to Brentford, it will be 11 losses at home in the Premier League in 2025. Our worst record since 1994. Let that in. We are a commercial club at the moment. This stadium was built to make more money for the club. You can argue that it was for footballing purposes. I don't see the footballing purpose. I see a stadium that was built for multi-purpose, for different events, but also as an excuse to raise ticket prices. I saw a very interesting stat on social media. Based on the average season ticket price, it is costing a Tottenham fan £71 per point at home. The next highest is Wolves at £35 per point. That is still double what they are paying per point to watch their team pick up a point at home in the Premier League. I'm still struggling to get my head around it. And this Newcastle game just comes at a really, really bad time because I feel like it's an impossible scenario. Because the expectations are higher and higher. Fans are getting more and more frustrated. And there will be more anger if we lose to Newcastle, undoubtedly. I think the only thing that can save fans from getting really upset with this Newcastle game is if we just put in a really, really good performance regardless of the result. Because let's not get it twisted. We all want to see Tottenham do well. We all want to see Tottenham win games and pick up points. That is out of the question that any of us Spurs fans want to see us crash and burn. There's no way. But there's just such a divide between the players, the manager, and the fan base. I don't know how it gets repaired. I guess just by winning games and proving themselves on the pitch. But by distancing yourself further from your fans, it's never going to end well. Players will be hounded out of that club. I'm looking at you, Pedro Porro. You dare attack the fans, saying that people are not true Tottenham supporters? How dare you? You are paid thousands of pounds a week. And people pay thousands of pounds to watch you produce dreadful performances on the pitch. It's the same with you, Thomas Frank. It's the same principles. How dare these people come into Tottenham Hotspur Football Club and tell the fans that they are not true supporters? Absolutely unacceptable. And it will end in flames. I promise you that. Anyway, Newcastle away. How do we set up for this game? Where do we go? I think Thomas Frank is stubborn. So he's going to stick to a very, very similar lineup to the Fulham game to try and prove the fan base wrong. So this is what I think he'll go with. Vicario in goal. Pedro Porro. Christian Romero will come back into the team after a suspension. Mickey van der Ven and Jed Spence. I think Udogie will come out for another game. In midfield, I think he'll revert to type and go for the Bentancur Paulinho pivot. I think he will play Lucas Bergvall ahead of them. And I think he will play Richarlison, Kolo Muani and Kudus. That team doesn't excite me, to be honest with you. So let's go with the team that I would play, shall we? I think it will look a lot better. Vicario in goal, as poor as he is. Jed Spence at right back because I don't want to see Pedro Porro in that team after his behaviour after the Fulham game. Romero, Van der Ven, Udogie. In midfield, Paulinho, Papsar. Ahead of them, I would actually go Lucas Bergvall. I'd put Xavi Simons out on the left, Kudus on the right, Randall Kolo Muani up front. That's a team I would play for Newcastle. I think that is a team capable of getting something. Being defensively solid, but also having a bit of creativity about them. I want to see the Xavi Simons, Randall Kolo Muani link up. I want to see Destiny Udogie forming partnerships with people. I want to see strength in midfield, but also quality. That's what I want to see. It's not the team that we will see, but it's the team that I would go for. But Thomas Frank has to get it right, because if he doesn't get it right, He's worsening his own problems. And as I say, things will keep unraveling and going downhill until eventually he's kicked out of the door. So the pressure is on Thomas. Are you going to deliver, or are you going to crash and burn and fall like so many other managers of this football club before you? It really is that simple. It really is that simple. You have to start rebuilding this relationship with the fans. Otherwise, it's just not going to be a very long period and you're going to find yourself out of a job. We will see. Score predictions, I'm going to go with like a 3-1 to Newcastle, to be honest with you. I can't see Spurs picking up points just with how toxic everything is at the moment and unsettled. There's clearly issues behind closed doors as well. So that's what I'm going with. Unfortunately, let me know what your prediction is. How do you think the game's going to go? And who would you start? We will see. But I'll be back with a review of the game. Might be tomorrow night. It might be Wednesday morning. We will see. But I will be back with one for sure. So make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. Get notifications on if you want to see. Could well end up being another run. We will see. I'm hoping I don't get as angry as I did for the Fulham game. But yeah, appreciate you all as always. Enjoy your week if you can. If you're going up to St James's Park, stay safe. Try and enjoy the game. I'll catch you very, very soon. As always, come on, you Spurs.